Hey everyone, this is Steven Robles, the Bearded Teacher, and today I want to talk to you about some of the best and worst apps for listening to podcasts on iPhone. I love podcasts. I make several a week. I listen to tons of podcasts. I even buy merch from podcasts. What's up, ATP guys? But when you listen to podcasts with the stock app that comes with your phone, maybe it's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, maybe you listen to Spotify, they're okay, but there are some great podcast apps out there with some incredible features that would make it even more enjoyable to listen to podcasts. And I'm going to go through some of the best and the worst. And I want to take a moment to thank this video sponsor, which is Buzzsprout. I love Buzzsprout for podcast hosting. I have an entire video on moving your podcast to Buzzsprout, which is what I did. I moved my podcast, Movies on the Side. That's the podcast I'm wearing right here. And it was an incredible experience, seamless, carried all our episodes over to Buzzsprout. And one of my favorite features is they have the ability to add dynamic pre-roll or post-roll content to your entire episode back catalog. Maybe you want to do a sponsor ad across all your episodes, or you're selling some merch and you want to make sure that everyone who downloads any of your episodes hears about it. You can actually record a piece of audio, upload it, and Buzzsprout will put it at the beginning of all your episodes in your entire back catalog. It's a super powerful feature. You can try Buzzsprout for free and even upload 2 hours of audio every month totally for free. There's a link in the description. Try it out. My thanks to Buzzsprout. Now, let's jump into some of the best and worst podcast apps on iPhone. So I set up this home screen with a bunch of different podcast apps. You might recognize some, and others you might wonder what they're doing here, like Facebook. Well, funny thing is, Facebook actually added the ability to listen to podcasts in the Facebook app, but it is probably one of the worst experiences for listening to podcasts. I'm going to go to my Movies on the Side page, go to the podcast tab. Now, it does pull in all my episodes via RSS feed. This is the Buzzsprout feed for Movies on the Side. I can tap an episode and hit play, and it will actually play the podcast. But here's the thing. Once you're listening to a podcast, I can tap in here, and it does show the episode notes that I put in there, but Facebook doesn't even parse the HTML properly, meaning it doesn't make things like clickable. Like I actually have Encanto 2021 should be clickable, but instead they just put the full HTML link there, which is super weird. There are also not a lot of customizations for skipping forward or back for a certain amount of time. Can't really adjust like a up next playlist for what podcast episodes I want to listen to next. And most of all, the reason why Facebook is a terrible app for listening to audio is it does not use the built-in iPhone audio player. And so if you lock your iPhone screen and you want to skip forward or back while you're listening to the podcast, you can't do it because Facebook is using their own weird audio player and the skip forward and back buttons aren't even available. And because Facebook is weird with audio and do stuff in the background, it is just one of the worst experiences for listening to podcasts. Now, Facebook is a huge platform, and them adding podcasts to Facebook is cool. It might make it more discoverable. I haven't seen any big uptick in my shows for having them in Facebook, but there are over 1 billion users using Facebook. Maybe they'll up their game on podcast players, but for right now, don't listen to podcasts on Facebook. There's way better apps out there. Now, these next two apps might not be the worst or as bad as Facebook, but they're just not good for listening to podcasts. The first one is Spotify. Spotify has really grown trying to get exclusive shows like Joe Rogan, Dak Shepard's Armchair Expert, and so there's a lot of people listening to podcasts in Spotify now. Some people like having music and podcasts in the same app. I've tried to use it, and it seems more cumbersome and just kind of annoying to find everything. You can go to your library of podcasts that you've subscribed to. You can go to your library. You can hit podcasts and shows. You can go to a specific podcast, even a specific episode, and you can listen. It does show the show notes better than Facebook. It actually has the HTML clickable like it's supposed to. It has the episode artwork, so that's nice. And when you click play, the player is okay. You can skip forward and back. It does give you better options. It actually uses the right lock screen player, so you can actually skip forward and back while you're listening in Spotify, unlike Facebook. But there's not great options for customizing the skip forward and back buttons. There's not great up next, what podcast you want to listen to next features in Spotify. So I don't recommend it if you're going to be listening to a lot of podcasts. The same way, Apple Podcasts is a little better than Spotify, but the Apple Podcast app is a little weird. If I just want to look at what are all the shows that I subscribe to or have follow in Apple Podcasts, there's this library tab, and it has some of the shows that I listen to, but then there's also this tab, which also shows shows. I'm not really different between followed and all shows. It's a little weird about where to get everything. It does show you the newest episodes right here on the home tab up front. You can tap it, and you can start listening to it. Apple Podcast does a little bit better job of displaying the show notes. Again, you can click the links. There's some weird HTML things where there's supposed to be a space between sponsored by and other things, but the notes are there. One drawback of the Apple Podcast app is that it has actually a character or word limit on the amount of show notes. So for the Apple Insider podcast, I actually have more links down here and more text that I wanted listeners to be able to see, but the Apple Podcast app maxes out and only displays that maximum number of text. So again, not the best. Also, there's not a lot of customizations for the Up Next. They do have an Up Next feature where if I hide the episode notes, again, it's a little clunky getting around. It does show chapters, which is nice. The playing next, there's not a great way to optimize this. You can add episodes to the Up Next and you can remove episodes. But again, it doesn't give you great control over that Up Next playlist. And it also doesn't have great options for customizing those skip back and play options. You do have some, and I'll go down here. If you go to the settings app on your iPhone, you go to podcasts, there are some options here. Like you can change, forward at the max 60 seconds. I actually like to have my skip forward more than 60 seconds. Like if I'm going to skip a sponsor read, I'll show you different apps that have more options there. And again, there's some options, but not a lot of customization. The way I listen to podcasts, I subscribe to a lot of shows, but sometimes certain shows are priority. I want them like the very next episode as soon as it comes out. Others I can put at the bottom of my Up Next playlist. And these next apps give you the ability to do that kind of stuff with your Up Next episodes and have a host of other features. So here's the top 3 podcast apps that I would recommend you try using. The first one is Castro. Castro is a pretty cool app. Its design is pretty heavy-handed. You kind of have to like the font designs and all that they use, but it does show all your subscriptions in one place, alphabetical order. You can go and tap an episode, and Castro tries to put your new episodes in like an inbox style. So if you want to see just the new episodes, you can do that. There's certain filters there. It's not super intuitive how to get to like the episode notes and all that, so I'm not crazy about that with Castro. They do have options for like enhanced voice, trim silence, which all these top 3 apps that I'm about to go through have. But again, because it doesn't have, it's kind of like easy to get to show notes, and certain features are kind of behind the paywall that I think should just come with a podcast app. They do this Castro Plus, which some of the features that are really cool are like the Apple Watch. Again, the other apps I'm going to mention in a second have that feature. The strip silence type features when you're listening. You can upload your own files to listen to, which another app has that feature, which I'll go to. Upgrading to Plus makes the ads disappear, which again, depending on how you feel about ads, you see those. And chapter support is only available in the Castro Plus plan. Chapters are so important. I love adding chapters to the podcast that I create. I like seeing chapters and being able to skip around in some of the longer podcasts I listen to. So I really think chapter support should be just one of the built-in features on the free side of an app. That's fine. Castro's kind of doing it how they want to. To unlock the features, you do have to pay either $3 a month or $19 a year, which compared to the other podcast apps I'm about to recommend is a little steep. But I still think Castro is a better option than even Apple Podcasts, Spotify, definitely Facebook. So you could try Castro, but these last 2 are really 2 of the best podcast listening apps out there. I highly recommend you try them, and you can try them for free with some of the great features available for free, and they have some paid features that I'll go over now. A popular podcast app, this is developed by Marco Arment. He also is one of the hosts on the ATP podcast. Overcast has great features. You can see all your subscriptions right here under the podcast heading. You can create smart playlists with lots of different options, like just show me new episodes of these particular podcasts. It has some finicky details about just download locally these shows and whatnot. I do think Overcast does chapter art and show notes better than most other apps. While you're listening to a show, you can swipe over. You have the episode notes right there. It parses the HTML properly. It includes all the notes. There's no character limit like Apple Podcasts. So I appreciate that. What people really love Overcast for is the smart speed. Now, again, Castro had this kind of feature. Pocket Cast that I'm going to talk about last has a similar feature. But Marco Arment really spent time to making that smart speed feature excellent, meaning it'll take away silences in a podcast, but not make it feel like a weird conversation timing kind of thing. So people really like it for smart speed. Voice boost, again, it intelligently equalizes and raises the volume of podcasts that might have lower volume than others. So when you're listening through multiple episodes, you don't have to worry about one being way louder than another. So the Overcast app is great on the iPhone, but another great reason people like Overcast is the Apple Watch app. Let's say you want to go for a walk or exercise and listen to your podcast, but not bring your iPhone along. Castro has this feature, but it's part of the Plus paid plan. Overcast includes the Apple Watch app with the app. You could just get it. The Apple Watch app is really good. I can see actually my shows right there. You can see some downloaded ones that I can play to without the phone. I can play, skip forward and back right here on my watch. You can even skip chapters forward and back, change the speed, all right here on the Apple Watch. And it even has like show notes right here. So the Overcast Apple Watch is incredible. Now, finally, I'm going to tell you about the podcast app that I use. It is my favorite. I think it has some of the best features of all the podcast apps out there. And not only is this app available for iPhone, but you can actually download it for Android as well. So if you have an Android phone, I recommend this app as well. The app I'm talking about, of course, is Pocket Cast. I love the design of Pocket Cast. I love this first opening home screen, which shows me all the artwork of the shows that I subscribe to. I can even customize the size of this artwork if I want to make it smaller or larger. And then I can tap into a show, see the latest episodes, tap into an episode, and all the show notes get parsed really beautifully. All the spacing is proper. All the HTML links work, so I love all of that. When you're listening to an episode, you do have the options of like smart speed, trim silence, and volume boost, so similar features there to Overcast. I actually love the way that Pocket Cast treats chapters and notes sliding. It takes up the whole screen, unlike Overcast, where it's just kind of in that little square window at the top. You can see the show notes that take up the whole screen. Let me go to an Apple Insider podcast, and you can see what I mean. So you can see the show notes really displayed beautifully in Pocket Cast. The chapters are really displayed well. I like doing that. But some of my favorite features of Pocket Cast, I'm going to give you two of their killer features. Number one, if you spring for Pocket Cast Plus, you can actually upload your own files to Pocket Cast and listen to it as a podcast. Part of my process when I produce a podcast is I want to make sure and test it, listen back to it, make sure everything's right, make sure the chapters are good, no typos. To do that, I'll actually go to the MP3 file that I've saved in my iCloud Drive. I'll hit the share button, and I can actually share directly to the Pocket Cast app, and it will save this MP3 file in my cloud storage. Now, this is a feature of the Pocket Cast Plus, which is either 99 cents a month or $10 a year. Really reasonable, and for all the features it gives me, I love that about Pocket Cast. And now I can play this custom file. You can upload your own MP3, your own audio file, whatever you like. Maybe it's an audiobook you have as just a standalone audio file. And I can listen to this MP3 file. It even pulls in the chapters. I can check to make sure everything's right. And I love that feature about Pocket Casts. Castro also has this feature, but I find that Pocket Cast does it a little better. I also think Pocket Cast's sync between its iPhone, iPad app, and even its Mac app is just second to none. Overcast is really good with sync. They have the web player for the Mac, but I really love Pocket Cast. Now, this final feature of Pocket Cast I think is one of the most killer features. I can go into a podcast like Movies on the Side, hit this little gear icon, and it gives me all these options for each individual show. I can choose to auto-download, which many other apps do. I can choose to get notifications when there's a new episode. And this is the killer feature right here, Add to Up Next. I can choose that when there's a new episode of this podcast, I want Pocket Cast to add it to my Up Next list. And I can choose whether I want it to go to the top of the list or the bottom. If it's a podcast I really, really love, and if there's a new episode I want it to play as the very next episode, I'll hit top. You can actually choose playback effects per podcast. So maybe you want to do trim silence on one show but not another. I can set that per show basis. You can also choose to skip the first amount of every episode. Maybe you know a podcast has a set intro music or a set intro that you just want to skip because you've listened to the show for years. You can actually choose to skip the first 30 seconds of every episode you play automatically. And when you hit play on the episode, it'll just skip the first 30 seconds. Really cool feature there. Pocket Cast also integrates with Siri shortcuts. I got some cool shortcuts for that. And again, the Up Next list, where I can drag episodes up and down, change which episode will play next. I really think Pocket Cast does it the best. And finally, I think the Pocket Cast Apple Watch app is one of the best. I actually have the Pocket Cast app as a complication right here in my watch. I can go back and see what's now playing. And what's really powerful is in the Pocket Cast app on Apple Watch, I can see what episodes are on my phone and what episodes are specifically saved to my watch if I want to make sure something's downloaded before I go for a walk or run. If I select phone, again, I can adjust my up next. You can do filters, downloads, files. But what's really cool is when you're listening to an episode, you can also do the same thing like Overcast, is like skip a chapter right here. If you kind of 3D touch, push a little hard on the Apple Watch, it brings up this menu where you can do next chapter, previous chapter, mark as played. I can see the episode details and all that. The Pocket Cast Apple Watch app is really good. So I hope you like that overview of some of the podcast apps that I think are the worst. I'm looking at you, Facebook, and some of the best like Overcast and Pocket Cast. Try out some of these apps. You can try a lot of them for free. Most of the features are available. And if you listen to a lot of podcasts, I do think it'll make the experience even better when you have a great podcast player. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. I got tutorials coming. I have tutorials about podcasting and mics, moving your podcast to Buzzsprout. I also have tutorials on building a website with Squarespace, if that's your thing. And if you check out my YouTube shorts, there's a bunch of tips and tutorials for iPhone and iPad there. I'd love to interact with you in the comments of this video, what questions you have or tutorials you'd like to see. You can also hit me up on Twitter. I'm at Steven Robles. And you can listen to the podcast that I produce. I'll put the links to all of those in show notes. Thanks again to Buzzsprout, this video sponsor. You can try Buzzsprout for free at the link in the video description. Thanks again for tuning in. I'll catch you next time.